Hey folks, it's Rob Flux here with another Sunday session, and today we're going to be talking to you about the 7 key steps to achieving a property development mindset. And in order to do that, I'm going to welcome into the room the lovely Kylie Walker. Kylie is the life and property coach inside our property development formula program. So firstly, welcome, Kylie.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be here.
As it is. Talking to me, how can things go anything other than that?
That's right.
So I guess the role that Kylie plays inside our property development formula program is the life and property coach. So your role is responsible for getting people to actually take action in order to progress their property development journey. And so you come across a whole bunch of things that are, I guess, stopping people from taking action. We're going to talk to a lot of those today. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about 7 of those in particular. But I thought it might be a really good place to start by just talking about the difference between a coach and a mentor so that people actually understand, because I know that in a lot of other programs, they call the mentor a coach, but the mentor's not really a coach. And, you know, there's a little bit of confusion on what that is. So in your own words, what does a coach do?
Well, a coach supports people to take action. So as a professionally trained life coach, I've done multiple certifications to become a actual real life coach. And I think the word coach is just bandied around a lot in lots of different contexts these days. It's a non-regulated industry and lots of people call themselves coaches. And it's really important that you understand what type of coach you're working with. So my role in this program is really to support people with their mindset, and I guess I come from a whole of life perspective on how can I support students to take action in the program so that then they can move over to you, Rob.
So when they're taking action, it's my job as the mentor with the person with the runs on the board to actually make sure that it's the right action. Okay, so that's the key. I guess mindset, is a very big part in this, because it's at least 50% of the challenge in the process, because it doesn't matter what I teach if they don't go and do. And it doesn't matter that you get them to do stuff if they don't know what to do. And so we play, I guess, a bit of a tag team role. So we kind of high five each other and pat them on the back and push them over to each other. So we're going to talk about some of the common issues and challenges that you see in the process in order to get people to actually take action in the first place. So why don't we start with number 1, and that is your why. Now, lots of people talk about your why, and a lot of people don't know what their why is or that sort of thing. Let's talk about what is why. Why is that so important? Why is why important?
Why? That is the question. The why is so important because that's the thing that's driving you towards wanting to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. It's the reason why you're getting into this property development journey. It's why you're getting into this space. You know, we talk to a lot of people, and when we're getting to know new students in the program, the common answer is, I want to have financial freedom and I want more time. And so we want to know, why do you want that? Why is that important to you? What would you be doing once you have all of that in place already? Because this journey isn't easy, and you need to have a really compelling reason to be putting the work in to doing what it takes to be successful.
That's super important. And I can vouch for seeing this many, 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 many times. We ask the question, and the common response is, because I want to be financially free. But that's not the point. The point is, what are you going to do when you are financially free? And I think most people haven't really put that level of thought into, I don't know, I didn't think I'd make it, so I didn't put that level of effort of thinking ahead. So I guess there's a lot of that, that thinking that we need to get them to tap into, because property development is not easy. You are going to get knocked down. Things are going to happen. We've got to find a motivation to, I guess, encourage you to get back up again, so we can dust you off and push you in the back and push you back into the arena to keep doing the stuff that you need to do. And I guess a lot of that comes down to why are they wanting to embark on the path in the first place? And I don't think people have thought that through. So what are the common things when you actually get people into their why, what are the common things that they want to do?
A lot of people want to give back. So once they've achieved a certain level of wealth, they want to be able to do I guess, the lifestyle goals that they have. They want to feel like they've got more time so that they can just do the things that they want to do. And when I ask them, what do you want to do? It probably wouldn't take them very long to be bored with the things that are on their list right now when they haven't thought big enough. People that have spent a bit of time thinking about this will say they want to be able to give back to community or give back to um, family or pay it forward to underprivileged children or communities, whatever that is. But a lot of people have really big whys, and then other people say, well, my why isn't that big. It's not as big as like this, I'm wanting to make a real big difference in the world. Is my why still important? Is it really a why? And I would say whatever your why is that gets you emotionally drawn to wanting to take the action is good for you. It doesn't have to be wanting to change the planet or wanting to change the world. There can be whole different layers of whys. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you touched on the key point here, and this is the big segue that I want everyone to take away: what you're emotionally attached to, and
Mm,
that is the thing that actually drives you to actually do the things that you want to do. And if you can find that emotional attachment, there are generally two different kinds of emotional attachments that there's things that we are running towards and things we are running away from. So
mm, yep.
maybe that's a maybe we can talk about those different kind of drivers as to how do those different kinds of whys actually help or inspire people to do the things that they do.
Mm. So when we're looking at moving away goals or moving away from something, a lot of people will language, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be struggling. I don't want to have to work in my day job that I hate. It's all this moving away from stuff. I don't ever want to have to struggle like I saw my parents struggle. I don't want to ever have to go through bankruptcy again. Like whatever that thing is, it's that thing that you're moving away from because you just don't want to be in that situation again. And that can be a great motivator and driver up to a point. And then I think it's important that we flip it. So we go, we know what we don't want, but if we keep focusing on what we don't want, the law of attraction says we're going to attract more of what we don't want. So it's important to be moving away from what you don't want and knowing what it is that you don't want to have any more of, but then flipping it into what do you want instead? So we know
Well,
you don't want to be struggling with money. You know you don't want to be poor. You know you don't want to be stuck in your day job that you hate for the next 25 years. So use that as fuel to get yourself going, to make the commitment to yourself, to take the actions that you need to take, to set the structure. And we'll talk about some more of these steps as we're going through this interview today. We want to flip into the moving towards what do you want to create instead? And this taps into the why. Like, how would your life look if you had achieved your financial goals? How would you be feeling? What would you be seeing? What would you be telling yourself?
yeah, and I guess there's a couple of things in there that you touched on and kind of went over really quick. I'm going to drag you back into those.
Hmm.
Uh, so the and now I've had a brain fade myself. But the moving away, moving away from goals, when people are concentrating on those and they're saying, I don't want something, and whatever the something is, our subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between the difference between a positive and a negative. So I do want something or I don't want something. What it's hearing is something. And so
Mm,
something is what it concentrates on. So we need to give the something that positive attack vector. So that's the thing that our subconscious mind is actually looking for. We have this little thing inside our brain called the reticular activating system, or a RAS, that automatically filters all of our thoughts, all of our processes and that sort of thing, and only presents us the things that we think are important. So if we keep telling it negative things are important, then it's going to look for negative things. So we want to look for positive things so that I guess people are always only finding the positive things out of. Now, it's not as simple as, hey, just be happy. How many times have you heard that? You're depressed, just smile a bit.
okay, then.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is about reframing, I guess, the thing that you're running away from and just reframing that to, well, what is the opposite of that? if you don't want that, then clearly you do want this. So let's reframe that more positive mindset. Now, the other part to this, I hear a hell of a lot, and I'm sure that you hear even more, is a lot of people tell us what they want. And there's been these big delusions of grandeur of, I want this ginormous amount of cash and I want this really nice house. And but then there's, what do you need? And if you try to go for that really big goal, which is a fantastic thing to have, you need to go past what you need in order to get there. But if you make that what you want too big, then it becomes unbelievable. And so we struggle in actually getting there. So if we start to concentrate on what we need, then generally we find that becomes a milestone along the way to where we want. And I'm sure you see plenty of evidence of that all the time.
And when you're talking about what are people's financial freedom numbers, when we're having those types of conversations, so the numbers that people say that they want to create through passive income through their property portfolio and what they need in order to start to live their lifestyle goals and to be able to make completely different choices than what they can make right now, the numbers are usually quite different. And we often find that they don't need anywhere near as much as they think they need in order to be, in inverted commas, be happy. But I say in order to be able to make different choices. You go?
Absolutely. So let's use that little segue just to go, well, what is your financial freedom number, folks? So your financial freedom number is enough passive income to pay the bills, okay? So that is to put food on the table, fuel in the car, send the kids to school, or you do the things that you are currently doing in your current lifestyle, not your future lifestyle, not the thing that, in the big house and the big car. What are you doing right now? So do yourself a budget and actually understand, what is it actually costing me to live right here, right now? Now, I do have a little link for people to actually download a little template in order to do their budgets. So, good segue to say, go do that, folks. Actually work out what that is. And you'll be surprised that it doesn't actually take a huge amount of money to actually become financially free. That is, you don't need to work to live the lifestyle you're living. Now, how many times have we seen people, I'm going to say 2, 3, 5 times their want versus what they actually need when they actually see their numbers? I'd say it'd be uncanny how many times I see that.
And people will often say, but that's not enough. Like, I want to be able to earn more than that or have more than that. And we're like, yes. Well, you're like, yes, that's great. But it's, what, if you earned that income passively and you didn't have to get out of bed all week, and that money was still rolling on in, like, that's giving you lifestyle freedom and it's giving you a lot of choice. And all the extras on top of that, hey, that's a bonus.
Yeah, and the key thing that gives you the most valuable commodity of all is time. If you don't have to work to pay the bills, you now have all the time in the world to do the things that you want to do, which comes back to the why in the first place. What are you going to do when you've actually got that time? Because that's the most important commodity. Time is the only thing that we spend, folks, that we cannot earn back. So, every day we're spending it 3,600 seconds of time that will never come back to us ever again. So if you imagine that as money, if you just spent it and spent it and spent it and it never came back, what would you do? So
I think you go.
Oh, no, you go.
I was going to say, it's really important that we have that clearly defined goal in whatever area of our life it is. So something that pops into my mind right now is, I want to lose weight. That's a pretty broad goal. How do you know that you've ever achieved it? So we've got to be very specific on the number. I want to lose 5 kilos by such and such a date. Then you've got something to tangibly work towards. So we can apply these principles in property, in any area of our life. So I just thought I'd bring up a topic or a point in a completely different area just to demonstrate that we need to have the detail on what we want to achieve.
So which is point number 2. Having a clearly defined goal is point number 2. And even then, it's about, and you touched on being very clear in it, but if you say, I want to lose 5 kilos, well, where did you start? So that 5 kilos from what? Right? Because, if I lose a kilo today, well, I still want to lose 5 kilos. So now I'm actually losing 6 kilos. So you need to have a starting point, be able to measure. Just like a GPS, you need to know exactly where you are. You need to know exactly where you're going. And if you've got those two, then it's really easy to map out the path that actually goes between the two, and then keep checking in with yourself as to how are you tracking along there. Have I lost 1 kilo? Have I lost 2? That sort of thing along the way. And I think most people don't have that concept of where am I starting and where am I ending. So, that budget that I gave you just a couple of seconds ago, and here's the link for that again. If you don't know where you're starting, how do you know where you're going to end, right? So now it's about defining, well, not only what do I want, but how do I get there? So that clearly defined goal, we in our program help you to put together your own 5-year property action plan. Now, it's important to say it's your own because I'm not legally able to give you accounting, financial, or legal advice. So it has to be your plan, because even if I gave you a plan, you're not going to follow my plan. So we give you the tools in how to build that plan, which helps you to articulate what is my strategy. It helps you to articulate what is my deal size. It helps you articulate what is my deal trajectory. How do I graduate from a small one to a medium one to a large one to then start collecting properties, those sorts of things. It's really important to actually distinguish between those. But I don't think people have that goal in mind in a lot of instances. They just want to be free. I just want to be financially free. What does that look like? What are you going to do with that money? Yeah. So I guess the other thing along the way, that some of the things that I see is that people's goals are more delusional. They're a little bit more flight of fancy and way off in the distance. So how do you articulate, or how do you able to distinguish when someone actually has a fantasy that they think is a goal?
So I think we need to look at what can you realistically achieve. So when I'm saying realistically achieve, I'm not saying to be a dream stealer and to bring your goals like too small, but some goals are so big that they actually are a fantasy, and you're not likely to take the action that you need to because your unconscious mind is just going, well, this is just way too big. So it's going, how can you get some clear and specific goals that you know are a stretch for you, but they actually are achievable? So sometimes that's checking in with a mentor to go, hey, this is what I'm thinking I'd like to achieve. What are your thoughts on that? It's talking to me as a coach and saying, this is what I'm wanting to achieve. Can you give me some feedback on this? It's going and looking at what other people have achieved to know if it is possible for you. It's going to lead us into our next point. So I'm holding off with what I was going to say next, but I'm just going to pause right now.
Yes, okay, absolutely. So I guess once you've got that, that goal, I guess it's really about breaking that goal down. So step number 3 is breaking that goal down and actually putting in an implementation plan in place. So being able to break it down into bite-sized pieces. So everybody has heard the expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So how do you, with that big delusional goal or big realistic goal, we want to actually break that down. Actually, I just thought of one element on the defining goals that we probably didn't touch on. I might loop back and then we can come back to the implementation part, is how we articulate the goal in order to make sure that we have locked in that it is actually clearly defined. So the concept is what they call a SMART goal. So, and SMART is an acronym. So specific, so be very, very clear on what it is. Measurable, you want to make it achievable, which is what you touched on, Kylie. You want to make it relevant, so relevant to why you're doing this in the first place. So that I can spend more time with the family, so that I can, I guess, give back to society, and time bound. So when is it going to happen? So what I see a lot of times is people say, look, I just want to earn $1 million, right? Whereas a SMART goal would be something like, look, I want to earn $100,000 passive income by doing the subdivision process in this council by this timeline, right? So you've got the very specific. So you're specific in the strategy, you're specific in the where, you're specific in the time, that sort of thing. And then the last part would be so that I can spend more time with my family, or so that I can, save world hunger, whatever your purpose or why is, and be able to tie that in. Anything you want to add to SMART goals and how people can break that down for themselves?
So I think when we set a SMART goal like that, we're looking at that goal from quite a few different angles, which I think I can't get my words out, is important. So like you said, I want to earn $1 million, or I want to have $1 million passive income, or whatever that may be. By having a time frame around that is so important. And then, like you touched on at the end, because then I can spend more time with my family. You're understanding why that's so important for you. You're adding in the reason why, I guess, and looping back to the why this is important and why you want to achieve that. So it's important when we're looking at our goal setting that we're coming from lots of different angles, which the SMART goal setting process does do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then it's about breaking that down into little bite-sized chunks. Okay. And what I tend to see a lot is people overestimating what they can do in a very, very short period of time. They're sold on the delusion that you can become a millionaire overnight through this property development game. Whereas the reality is, look, you have to learn a trade. You've got to learn the skills. You've got to put the runs on the board. You've got to put the effort in before you can lock in a deal. Then you've got to run the deal. And only at the end of the deal, when you sell it, do you actually get paid. And so that takes time in order to get there. Bill Gates has famously said, most people overestimate what they can do in 12 months and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So when we look at it that way, that implementation timeline has to be realistic in what milestones you're going to hit as you go.
Mm. And are you prepared to do the work? This is what I was touching on before when we looped around. Are you actually willing to do the work that it takes? So I see a lot of people coming into this program or into development that have really big goals. And then I talk to them about the work that's involved in order to achieve those goals. And I think for a lot of people, they look at where they are now, they look at where they want to get to, and they're not giving a lot of thought to the process that's involved in getting there. So I coach a lot of people around the implementation of the steps that you need to take in order to successfully get into and complete projects. So are you willing to change the way you spend your week, your time during the week, so that you can allocate the time that you need to do to work on your property development business? Are you willing to get up early and put the time that you need to into the area research that we talk about? Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone and call agents or door knock when you're in farming stage, or when you're looking for opportunities? Well, you got to ask yourself, are you actually willing to do what it takes in order to get that success? And some people just aren't, and that's why they don't get the results.
Well, if you're not taking action, then how can you? Now, there's a saying that that is probably one that people will catch really easily. Change will only happen when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So when you start to see how much work is actually sitting in front of you, and you have a look at, well, how bad is my life right now? Or you go, it's not that bad. And so a lot of people go, well, if it's not that bad, I'll just put up with it, right? Because I don't want to go to the effort of doing that hard work that we're actually talking about. So what are some tips where people have already got a good life, but they want a great life? So the pain for them is, well, this life's pretty good. Well, I don't need to go through that pain point of learning a new trade. Why would I do that? How do you help those guys to tap into the fact that it's worthwhile doing that extra bit of effort right now?
This loops us back to the why. Like, what can you emotionally attach to that is a reason why you're going to do the work that you need to do when you're comfortable? Because when you're in the comfort zone, like, the comfort zone is the enemy to greatness.
Well, a good life typically stops a great life. That's what I see.
Yep. So you have to be emotionally attached to something that's more important than the current lifestyle that you're living. to results that are more meaningful for you. Because otherwise you stay comfortable. Why would you go and put all this extra work in?
So
That's my biggest suggestion, is becoming really emotionally attached to the outcome that you will have from doing this work.
So one of the ways that I've found that worked really well for me, and I'm sure will work for others as well, is that because it takes effort to do this thing right now, and if I've got a pretty good life, so why would I do that extra effort? Well, I need to tap into that emotional thing that you're talking about. I need to tap into not the current pain, because the current pain's not there for me. I need to tap into future pain. So what happens if I don't do this thing? See, if I just sit here and treadmill this in 5 years, 10 years, and I haven't moved, and I'm going to be, what is my life like in 10 years? If I tap into that and go, oh, I don't want that life. So therefore, because I don't want that life, I'm going to do the thing that I need to do right now to say, well, what life do I want in the future? Again, tie ourselves to that. What do we want? So take a small moment to tap into the pain of the future, and then very, very quickly just flush it and go, rightio, that's what I don't want. Now what do I do want? And now this is the thing that I'm prepared to do in order to get there.
And you can be on the right track, but if you don't keep on moving, the trains are just going to keep passing you by. So you've got to be on the right track and keep on moving if you want to, I guess, have a similar quality of life as you have right now. Like if you want to be continuously improving your life, as I said, you may be on track right now, but how can you continue to keep on moving forward down that track?
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, talking about the next step on the way, which is building momentum. How do we build the momentum in order to get there? Now, I guess depending upon where you're starting, momentum is hard to achieve when you're coming from a zero start, right? So it feels like that you're leaning up against a boulder, trying to push a boulder to move, because you've got all these, you've got to learn a strategy, you've got to learn where to farm, you've got to learn all these council rules, you've got to learn how to negotiate, and there's a lot to it. So it feels like just leaning into that boulder. But the thing with a boulder is once you get it moving, it's very hard to stop. So momentum is really, really important to actually have, I guess, working on your side. So how do we get that to happen for us, Kylie? How do we don't feel like we're pushing against that rock? How do we change that to be something that's actually going to propel us forward much faster?
Well, we're going to cover some specific steps in our very next point. So I guess it's really important now that we highlight the importance of the momentum, because when you get on a roll, things just get easier and easier and easier. And you know when you're in flow, like it's just like things are working easily for you. You know when you've got that momentum going, like it's just like, yes, I'm on a roll. Things are just happening for me. And there's some specific steps that you can take to help build that momentum, which leads into.
We'll jump on that in a sec, but
Okay.
I guess the building momentum, I think, comes back to, I guess, one of the things you had, I guess, in step number 2. So having, I guess, a push goal or a pull goal. So we want to have, are we running away from something or are we running towards something? Now, it's much easier. If you're running away from something, it feels like an anchor behind you, dragging you. Whereas if you're running towards something, it feels like a slingshot kind of flinging you into the distance, because we want that thing. So, that our mind plays tricks on us. And if we don't have that running towards type approach, that anchor can actually, just the friction of that anchor can just force us to give up.
Agreed.
Yeah. So which brings us to, I think we're up to step number 5 at this point. I guess building consistent action. So we've got ourselves, why are we doing it? We've got ourselves, I guess, our goals. We're trying to build momentum in that. We've got ourselves I guess an action plan. Now we're trying to build momentum. How do we actually do that? How do we actually get in the habit, to do the things that we need to do? So I've heard many things about habits. So when we're trying to give up something, it takes forever to stop it. To start a new habit, it takes time to actually get it. How long typically does it take to form new habits?
Well, they say
They
it
say.
takes it takes 21 days. What I suggest is that when you identify a habit that you need to change or a habit that you put in place, that you're replacing an old behavior with a new habit. So to be the most effective way or the most effective way to change your habits is to replace something you don't want to do with something that you do want to do. It's super simple when you think about it like that. Because again, if we're focusing on what we don't want to do, our subconscious mind is hearing what we don't want to do, so we're attracting and focusing on that even more. So it's like, oh, I don't want to have to get up early, or I don't want to sleep in tomorrow. Okay, so instead, I want to get up when my alarm goes off at 5 a.m., whatever time it is for you. So it's replacing the snooze button with just getting up. If you follow Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. That's a way to change one of the daily habits of pushing the snooze button if that's what you do.
So you said that name really fast. So Mal
I do talk fast, don't I?
you do.
Slow down. I'll slow down.
So what? So is that a book that somebody could grab? Mel Robbins.
Yeah, so Mel
What's the
Robbins,
reference there?
the 5-second rule.
The 5-second rule. Sounds like when you drop the food on the floor and you can that's the 10-second rule. So what is the 5-second rule?
So she talks about giving yourself the countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do that thing. Whether it's getting out of bed, whether it's making that phone call that you're avoiding. Sorry, you go.
Take the action.
Yeah, that's it.
So, and that reminds me of a little bit of I guess a segue here. So give me a sec to go down this path. People tend to, I guess, have a decision that, hey, I want to do this thing. But what they don't do is decide to actually execute it. Now, the difference is if we look at etymology of a word, it comes from Latin decere. But the scission and the side is the bit that I want to go into. So scission is incision is to cut, right? Side as in pesticide, suicide is to kill. So a lot of people make the decision, so they put a cut that this is where I want to be, that I've drawn a line, that's where I want to go. But they don't kill off the bad, that they don't kill off the past in order to say, well, this is the only path that it's actually going to be. So my guidance is don't make a decision, decide. So in that 5 seconds, decide to do that thing. Oh, yeah, I will get out of bed to snooze, right? I will. But the thing that helped me a lot, okay, is when you're making these big goals, okay, the bigger it is, the harder this becomes. But when you're making a big goal, I want 6-pack abs. Now, getting out of bed, looking down at the lack of 6-pack abs at this moment in time, that's very defeating, right? And the lack of that can sometimes bring you down. So instead, make a micro commitment. So I'm going to put my gym shoes on. Now, if I put my gym shoes on, then I'm likely to be sitting on the end of the bed going, well, now what am I going to do? So, okay, I'll take the bins out. Well, tomorrow I'll put my shoes on again and I'll go, well, I don't need to put the bins out today. I'll walk to the corner. And then the next micro commitment was, well, I'll walk around the block. And if you do those micro commitments as stepping stones along the way, it's important to have those little measurable incremental measuring points to say, well, yeah, I have progressed. Because sometimes when it's too far away, it's like it's out of reach. You go, oh, I can't grab it. What can you add to that to try and help us with other little tips and tricks and that sort of thing?
So we want to set ourselves up so our new habits are easy. So if it's changing the way that you're eating, making sure that you're organized and having all the ingredients that you need in the house. If it is committing yourself to doing study, say if you're doing the program that we have here, it's how are you organizing yourself so that it's easy for you to get up in the morning and go straight to your computer and do your block of time that you've committed to. You don't even have to think about it. It's just something that you do. It becomes a habit. So it's making the habits easy for you to slip into. Because if you're not organized, if you haven't set yourself up well, it's super easy to fall back into your old bad habits. You had them for a while, they're comfortable and they're familiar. So it's important to notice that when you are implementing new habits, it may be uncomfortable for a little bit, particularly when you're getting started. And after a few days, you can start to feel this confidence that, oh, yeah, I've got this thing and I'm doing it. And then you have to be super vigilant with yourself, because then as you're starting to feel that success that you're applying these new habits, if you take your eye off or take your focus away for a moment, you could easily slip into your old habits. So you've got to keep your commitment strong, because as soon as you start to get that momentum, some people start to relax a little around that. And I want you to stay super focused on the habits that you want to continue doing so that you don't slip up and fall into the old ways.
Yeah, there's a couple of really simple, easy things, and they are so simple that we just overlook them. And that is actually making an appointment with yourself to do the things that you need to do. So
Mhm.
scheduling it into your calendar. If we put a calendar appointment to go to the doctor, we turn up to the doctor. If we put a calendar appointment to go to a meeting, we go to the meeting. So we want to have a meeting with ourselves. We want to schedule that time, and we want to commit. As soon as that happens, we decide to actually do the work that needs to happen for that moment in time. Now, at the end of the appointment, then you go back to doing the rest of your life, right? But it's about, I guess, prioritizing that and putting that, I guess, ahead of other things. And in order to put that time into our life, we have to work out, well, there's only so many hours in a day. What are we taking out of our life in order to fit that in, right? So what are some of the things that you see that people that are easy winners take out of their life that they're quite often not willing to do?
Social media. But
Unless
actually,
you're listening to Sunday sessions, folks, that's okay.
that's it. I would actually say procrastinating, because a lot of people spend time just thinking about the things that they should be doing and not actually doing them. So they need to stop procrastinating and instead start taking action on the things that they need to do, even just little action steps. So
Well,
ideally, you go.
you go. No, you go.
Yeah, so it's looking at how you're spending your time on a daily basis, even on a weekly basis. So I always suggest looking at the overview and looking at how you're spending your week, working out what the important things are, and then breaking it down to a daily focus and looking at how you spend your day. What do you need to stop doing? Use that example from before. I need to stop pushing the snooze button in the morning because it makes me late. What do you need to start doing? Be more focused, be more intentional about how you spend your day. Because when you're intentional about how you want to spend your time and how you structure your day and how you structure your week, your results are very different. So
Absolutely.
it
And sorry, you keep going.
so it's really comes down like it's super important to schedule your time on a daily basis. Identify what are the things that are taking your time up. Where are you wasting time? Where could you be more efficient? Because a lot of people, when they do that time audit, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was spending so much time doing this, this, and this." And when we rejig their schedule, there's actually time left over to do the things that matter.
Yeah, and I guess to help them with that, another free giveaway for them, time audit template. So if you want to download the time audit template and actually measure what it is that you're actually doing right now, see how much time you're spending on watching Netflix, how much time you're watching TV, how much time you're doing all sorts of other things, because you need to see what it is that you can take out in order to put something back in, right?
Mm.
So that time audit, make sure you do that. So you got a budget, you got homework, do your budget. Where are you starting? Do your time audit. What can I actually sacrifice in order to actually move us forward in that capacity?
Mm.
There's a couple of other things in there. So it's also about understanding personal boundaries, and tell us a little bit about how do we actually put boundaries around ourselves to protect us to actually do those things.
This is actually something that I support a lot of people on when I'm working with them. It's about protecting their energy and protecting their time. So a lot of people are used to looking after everyone else's needs. Mums in particular, I'm gonna, do a shout out to the mums. We're used to having to look after everyone else, and dads as well. I won't be stereotypical.
Father's Day
See the
coming
look
up,
on your
son.
face.
Don't knock the dads.
But if you want to achieve some goals in your life, you have to get clear about the time that you put into that. And I hear lots of people say, I don't have time because such and such needed this from me, and I had to do that for such and such, and then I had to do this, and then they wanted this from me. And it's like, whoa, okay, you're putting all this responsibility on everyone else. So I'm going to say you have to look at yourself and go, what am I saying yes to, and what am I saying no to? So if you're saying yes to everyone else's needs, you're saying no to working on your goals. And so when people get this, it's like, what am I saying yes to and what am I saying no to? When you start saying no to other people's demands of your time, you're saying yes to you. And yes, my goals matter, and I'm setting the boundary around how I spend my time. When you get that distinction, it is a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah,
You get really discerning about what you say yes to and where you spend your time and how you spend your time. Back to you, Rob.
yeah. And so a simple analogy to try and put all of that into perspective. There's a concept that many people may have seen this before. You get yourself a jar, okay, and you put some sand in the bottom, and then you put some pebbles on top of the sand, and then you put some rocks on top. And what you'll find is that the jar will actually overflow. But if you change the order of all of that, if you put the rocks into the jar first, the pebbles fit in the gaps around the rock, and then the sand fits in around the gaps in the pebbles. And what you find is there's room left in the jar. There's more things that you can do. So if you're the rock, if you put yourself first, right, then things will fit around you. And I don't think enough people do that. So if you're one of those people who are always doing things for other people, you're not putting you first. You need to start putting you first, at least for some of the time. Schedule that part of your day in. So what are some systems, like if people are trying to do this and they're trying to get into this habit, we talked about trying to get the habits of this together. What are some systems they can put around themselves to keep them actually doing the things to measure the tangible support to support ourselves? What are some of the things that they can do that?
So there's great systems that you can put in place. So Rob's talked to you about doing the time, or we've spoken about doing the time audit tracker. So we look at where are you wasting time, where you're losing time, how can you maximize the time you have available? And often the way you can maximize that is by becoming more efficient. So working out, where do you feel overwhelmed? Where do you not have good systems in place? Where are you not organized? And find ways that you can get yourself organized. And there are some great tools that you can use. So you can use Asana as an online tool that you can dump everything out of your head and put it into this program that you can then have dates allocated to when you need to get tasks done. You can keep a track of everything. There's Trello. I think I've heard people talk about Monday. There's a whole lot of different programs that you can use, but finding an efficient way that you can keep your to-do list in one place. Some people, yep, you go.
Well, it gets everything out of your head, because otherwise what happens is you're too busy trying to remember what it is you've got to do. So if you get it out of your head, then these systems will just keep track of that. And then at that point, you just go, well, what's on top of the list? Prioritize them. And what's on top of the list? I'm just going to do that. And then when that's done, look back at the list. What am I going to do next? And eventually, if you just keep doing task after task after task, you have no choice but to succeed.
And I think it's way better using these electronic tools than the old pen and paper that I've got here. You can write things down, but then often people are just transferring the things from their list to a new list, and they just make themselves busy writing out fresh new lists every day.
Yeah, so you can use the tried and tested diary, but like you said, if I write it down today off my to-do list and I don't tick it off, then I have to rewrite it in tomorrow's page to make sure I actually, and eventually you go, well, I've written it 5 times in a row. Does it actually matter? Is important or is it urgent? Because you can have urgent things that are not important. And it's amazing how many times we're actually dealing with urgent things that when you actually put it into context, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah.
And getting the things out of your head, I liken it to when we can close down tabs in our browser on the computer. So the more things we get out of our head and into a system. So I'm encouraging people to use an electronic means, because it means that on my mobile phone, I can be out and about and I can add the new activity into my mobile. So I'm not waiting until I go home to use my diary or my paper list. But honestly, whatever works for you, use that. Just get it out of your head so then you can free up your mind and you can work on creative solutions. You can start to brainstorm. You've got more capacity to think about all the other things that you want to work on. So these systems are really great for you to stay on track with the things that you need to get done so that you can be proactive, because when we're reactive, it takes up a lot of our time when we're in reactive energy. So that can create anxiousness and stress and pressure and all those unnecessary feelings that we can experience if instead we were organized.
Yeah. And so if people wanted to, I guess, get a little bit better at, I guess, working out how to work themselves out and build some of those habits, there's a book that you wanted to reference. What's the name of the
Yes, I'm
book?
going to hold it up here. Atomic Habits by James Clear. So I listened to a really great podcast over the Christmas break. Months ago, I've been talking about the Brené Brown podcast where she interviewed James Clear. I've been recommending this book to students all year, and I have had so many students say that was life-changing for them. Now, I know that's a pretty big call to say it's life-changing. I know your program is life-changing, Rob, but also the ability to get yourself organized. And this book just really maps out the fundamental things that you need to look at. He talks about we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems.
And we were just talking about systems and support mechanisms to actually put into make that actually habit, that habit actually have some structure. And that's probably the key, is the structure that sits around that.
Yeah, so it's a really great book. I highly recommend it. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Habit swapping, like there's so many different. Oh, identity, that's what we're going to cover next. I think identity is a really big one.
You said swapping. What's this swapping thing? Is this where is this where I swap my hot potato chips for my carrot stick? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, habit swapping.
That's no good. I like my.
I know you love your hot. I know you do, Rob.
That's why I don't have those six-pack abs that we were talking about before.
I'm going to say yet, because you haven't swapped the habit yet.
Oh, that is my favorite word, and I'm glad that you threw it out there, Kylie. So we talked about before about our subconscious mind not being able to identify the difference between positive and negative. But quite often we self-deprecate, we talk ourselves down, and we make these statements that I can't do this, whatever this is. And so our RAS, our reticular activating system filters, just hears that and goes filtering on that. And because it's the thing that you don't want, it automatically says, well, if you don't want it, I'm just not going to look for it, right? So don't bother. So it hears it as a statement. Now, as a statement, it says, well, it's very clear. It's black and white. You don't want it. Done, right? So filter it out. But if you can add that one word, yet, you change that statement into a question. And by changing it into a question, now the reticular activating system starts to filter and says, oh, hang on, it's no longer this black and white thing. There's an answer. There's something I've got to look for. There's something that I've got to find and search for. So wherever you find yourself talking negative statements and self-deprecating, I can't do this thing yet, right? Then the next thing is, well, how do I do that thing?
And I think it opens up possibility thinking as opposed to closed-mindedness. So when we say yet, there's so many possibilities when you add that word on the end. So I've really taken on board that word that you introduced me to a long time ago.
Favorite word.
Yet.
So, which brings us to point number 6, okay, which is personal identity. So, who are you, right? So, are you the IT professional? That's who I used to be. Are you the IT professional, or are you the property developer, right? Who do you associate yourself when somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, what do you do?" That's the most common question. I do a little bit of property. Or are you? I'm a property developer. Look at me. How does that impact people, Kylie? What do you find is the power of that?
When people step into the identity of who they need to be and they really own that identity, it is so transformational. I've seen this time and time and time again. When I've worked with clients that, they're in their day job and then they do this property stuff on their side and they're doing this course, they haven't identified themselves as a property developer. It's just something that they do as a side gig. When you start to move that side gig and put it in front of you and make that in your mind the main gig, even if you're still working full time in your job, but when you start identifying with that identity more, that I am a property developer, I'm building my property development business. When you really own that, the results you get after that are amazing. I've seen it time and time again. You're no longer sitting in student mode, just trying to learn everything, whether you're listening to podcasts and whether you're actively working through a program or whether you're just studying, whatever it is. When you really take on board that identity of I am a developer, I'm looking for my first development project. It can be as simple as that. Some people have resistance in saying that they are a developer until they've completed a deal. So for some people, they need to say you need to use slightly different language so there isn't a real internal mismatch between who they are, who they really are, and who they want to be, and there can be that disconnect.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
saying,
can't say I'm a developer when I haven't done one. How's that possible?
Mm. So I'm looking for my development project. I'm researching my next development site. I'm researching my next development site. How empowering does that feel?
Whether it's my next one, whether it's my first one, you touched on one and you kind of breezed over it really quick. I'm learning a new trade here, so I'm in the I guess the business of property development. I'm learning that new trade, so I'm in the education phase of that new career. So you can touch into the bits that are real and are tangible and are believable. So if you don't feel that you belong as a property developer yet, well, what is the thing that you're doing? Call yourself that. I'm a student of property development because that's the future career that I've got. Call it out for what it is, and make sure you keep stepping up that identity as your confidence grows, as your skills grow, as your capability grow along the way.
Mm. And I've been speaking with some people recently, and they say, I'll feel like a successful developer when I've completed 3 or 4 deals. I'm like, really? 3 or 4 deals until you feel like a developer?
Well,
Okay, but
which is
could
it?
you?
3 or 4?
Yeah, and does it have to be 3 or does it have to be 4? Or could you just be seeing yourself as a developer when you're working through your first project? Like, does it have to be that many? And when I challenge people's thinking around that, they'll go, oh, I actually didn't realize I was putting that restriction on myself.
Yeah.
It's quite
Well,
interesting the thoughts that you automatically think. And then when you say it out loud to someone and we challenge or we question that, it's like, whoa, hang on a minute. Actually,
well,
that doesn't make a lot of rational sense.
if I'm not a successful developer until I've done 4, then surely I must be a shit developer right now when I'm still trying to work out how to do my first one. And so that's that self-deprecating element again. So it's really about changing our mindset to I guess make something that is believable and empowering, and I guess towards where we want to be. We're trying to
Mm.
tie all these things together to actually make that happen.
And if the
Which brings
developments, oh,
you,
sorry. Oh, I was going to say, if the development space is new for you, so we have people in this community that have done a lot of developments. Some have done a couple, some have never have done anything, and they're coming here to learn just the very initial stages of property development. I see a lot of people in this space, and they have a real identity challenge because they're new in this space. And we've already touched on this. What a lot of people forget to do is to bring their transferable skills into this, what's the word, realm, or into this
into
new
the
business, new
realm.
career change. I
Yeah.
actually had a coaching session earlier this week where it was exactly around that. It's like in my day job, I'm so successful at this. Like if you'd see me in my day job and you see me when I'm working in my own stuff, it's completely different. I'm a completely different person. So I work with a lot of people about bringing those skills in that you have already developed in your professional life into your property development business, because this is a business. It's big bucks. We're not just talking about having a market stall, that's not earning. I mean, I know that some market stalls do earn a lot of money, just saying, but we're generally talking big numbers here. So it's so important that you carry over the skills that you've developed in your professional experience, whatever that is, and apply it in your property development business.
So you might be a project manager in whatever industry that you're in. Well, you need to project manage in this career as well. You might be in sales. Well, you need to be selling in this career as well. You might be, I guess, looking after logistics. You have to do logistics in this as well. So whatever your career is, there are going to be skills that are instantly transferable. And it's just about you recognizing those elements and actually saying, well, actually, that actually counts towards recognition of prior learning. That recognition of prior learning actually says, well, I've progressed my property development career, even though I haven't started doing property development. It's about trying to make sure that you don't forget that old world. And we do this in our masterminding process. People come in here and it's amazing what people can bring from their own day jobs from a skill sets perspective when they've never done a deal, and can help someone who's a highly skilled developer who's done many projects. And there's people who've never done a project who's got this fantastic idea they've brought from their own career, which is a fantastic segue to point number 7, and the one that's going to close all of this out, and that is community, folks. As humans, we are a herd pack, and as a herd, if you travel around in a herd, what the herd does is it tries to protect you. And so as you move away from the herd will grab you and pull you back in, which means that if you're hanging around people that don't do property development, when you start to run towards property development, they're going to go, oh, that's dangerous, come back, and they're going to pull you back into the don't do property development pack. Instead, we want to hang around with a different herd. We want to hang around with a herd who are doing property development, okay? And so if you're hanging around with that herd, when you stray from the pack, it means that you're stopping doing property development or you're falling off the bandwagon. They'll reach out to you and go, hey, Rob, can you help me out? Hey, Kylie, where are you going? We can see that you've got so much success. Why don't you hang around with us for a little bit more? I'm sure you'll get there. Proximity is power, folks. Who are the people that you are hanging around? You've heard about the expression that you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around. Are you hanging around with 5 developers, right? Or are you hanging around with 5 people that aren't in property development? So hang around with, we run networking groups, our monthly meetups. We run them in 3 states and growing. Make sure you come to those monthly networking events. Build a social community that is part of this, I guess, the place that you want to go. Participate in our Facebook forums and ask questions in there, I guess, wherever you are. Go and have coffee dates, lunch dates, dinner, drinks, whatever it is, with other people that you meet at these events, and actually make sure that you're hanging around with that sort of process. There's the formal side of community. There's, doing mentoring programs and doing things like our property development formula. But that's only part of it, folks. It's about surrounding yourself with others that are actually doing you, because it's the community that will keep you doing the things that you need to do.
And as well as that, when you're wanting to achieve new results, so say you've never done a development before and you're wondering, would anyone want to do a joint venture with you? It's what I hear over and over and over again, the challenges around that with some people and their belief that that's possible. I'm always saying, go and look for evidence of success of other people that have done that before you. So when you go to networking events, look out for people, listen out for people that have done the types of deals that you want to do. When you're watching the meetups, if you watch the recordings, if you're an annual member and you have access to that. So find evidence of people that have done deals that you want to do, and you've got automatic evidence of success there. you'll find that those people are more like you than you realize. And that if they can achieve it, it's possible for you to achieve it too. So this is why it's so important to be looking for other examples of people around you, because we always go through the stage of believing it's possible for us, doubting whether it's possible. Like, can I really? When we're just going up and down, we're going through the ebbs and flows of life, and when we're wanting to do something new that we don't have results in yet, we want to look to other people and look at their results. You're smirking because I said the yet. You want to find evidence of other people that have achieved that, because if they've achieved it, you know it's possible for you. And when we're starting off on the smaller scale size projects, you're going to see lots of evidence out there. So activate your RAS and start looking for that, and you'll start to see it.
And if you want to start to hang around in those networking communities, the best place to do that is come to one of our monthly events. I've got the links in there. We run them physically in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. We also live stream them. So no matter where you are, you can always participate as well. So you might be in Brisbane and turn up to a Melbourne event, for example. So you can every weekend, I guess, be immersed in this community and find the level of support, learn in the process, and also find the level of support. And more importantly, build community that I guess, and the comradeship that actually comes from that. Kylie, we've covered a lot of ground. Should we give them a little bit of a summary with our 7 steps so far? So step number 1, your why. Tell them about the why, Kylie.
Yes, your why. It's so important that you know why you're wanting to achieve the goals that matter to you. Get emotionally attached to that outcome. Imagine what it would be like. Imagine what you would be seeing, what you'd be feeling, what you'd be telling yourself if you've achieved that goal. So really lean into and be immersed in how amazing that would feel for you, and create that vision for yourself.
Number 2, having a clearly defined goal.
If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So we need to be super clear and super specific on what it is that you want to achieve.
Smart goals. Number 3, implementation.
Be willing to do what it takes to achieve the goal that you say matters to you. It's implement. It's implement. You say you want to achieve this thing, do the work that you need to do to get there, and you will.
Number 4, building momentum.
Get going. Start taking action. When you get on a roll, it gets so much easier. The more action you take, the more momentum you build, and the more you get on going, and the easier it gets.
Number 5, consistent action.
Consistent action. You got to keep that momentum up, and the only way you do that is by consistently taking action towards your goals. You got to consistently be doing the things that you need to do that take you closer to where you want to be.
Do one thing towards your goal every single day, folks. One email, one phone call, one something. If you do something towards your goal every day, you can't help but move forward. Number 6.
What do you need to, yes,
no,
you go.
You
I was
go.
going to say, make sure you remember, what do you need to stop doing? What do you need to start doing more of? Really important.
Very good. Number 6, personal identity.
Yes, see yourself as the person that has already achieved that goal. How would you be seeing yourself? How would you be feeling? What would you be telling yourself? I know this loops back to the why stuff, but step into that identity. Really see yourself as that person that has achieved the goal and that can achieve the goal. Step out of student mode. Step out of, trying to hide. Like, step into the identity of what it is that you want to create more of.
And lucky last, number 7, drum roll, please. Community.
The people you hang with matters. You want to be inspired. You want to be supported. You want to be encouraged. So make sure you're putting yourself in those places where you're around people that will do that for you. Community matters more than what we realize. It really, really matters. And we've got a wonderful one here.
Proximity is power, folks. Be close to those that are doing the things that you want to do. And you cannot help but absorb their enthusiasm, their skills, their mindset, their can-do attitude, and all the things that are associated with the other 6 steps that actually got us here. Kylie, thank you very much for imparting your wisdom on our community. It is an absolute pleasure having you in our program and seeing the difference that you make in people's lives in getting them to take action, because it's only then that my skills actually get them to make sure that it's the right action. So Thank you very much for your help. Hopefully you guys got something out of that, folks. And we will see you at one of our upcoming meetups in the not too distant future, or on our next Sunday session coming up next week. So till then, folks, bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.